I've been in leadership for 18 years now, going from leading just 2 people to leading leaders of large teams. And I have seen this one mistake from aspiring leaders a bit too often for my liking. It is a common pitfall that many aspiring leaders will fall into without realising it, but is one thing that can really turn employers off. But luckily, with some key tips which I'll share with you, you're not going to make this mistake. The number one mistake aspiring leaders make is focusing solely on their own individual achievements and success. This is for those who are so caught up in climbing the ladder, accumulating titles, and collecting accolades that they are completely oblivious to any negative side effects that this could be having on their reputation and their team. They see their role as a solo act, all in pursuit of their own career advancement. So what's the big deal? Someone career focused and ambitious can't be negative, can it? Well, if you are the ambitious one, listen up. Being so focused and single-minded about your career could be derailing your progress. It could be alienating your colleagues, as no one wants to be around somebody who only cares about themselves. And it also limits your growth. A lot about leadership is about people and supporting the growth of others, not hoarding all the glory. And it also creates a toxic work environment, as focusing solely on your own career and picking and choosing what projects you do and don't work on, all on this basis, can create competition and resentment amongst your team members. How do I know all this? Well, like I said, I've seen this one too many times. And there is one example in particular that really sticks in my mind. This person is someone who was already in the team when I joined as the leader. And in their first or second meeting with me, they made it abundantly clear that their focus was to move into a more senior leadership role, and they wanted my support and feedback to get them on that journey. This was good. Clarity and focus about a career pathway was my jam. So I was all for this upfront conversation and talked it through with them and created a bit of a plan for the next 12 months to help support them with their goal. And I made it clear that, in my opinion, to get to the goal that they really wanted, they really needed 1 or 2 roles in between over a period of 5 years to help get them where they really wanted to be. Now, this plan was solid. It took into account their current experience, their skills, the gaps that they had, and the ultimate role that they were aiming for. And if you want support to build such a plan, using my framework, which I developed for just this purpose, make sure you check out the Leadership Career Blueprint linked in the description. So we had a good plan. This person was very focused on this plan and continued to do well in their role. However, I started noticing that they weren't connecting that well with their colleagues, and sometimes they were clashing to the point where I had to step in and mediate. This occurred twice with 2 different individuals, which made me look more closely at the common denominator, which was them. After a discussion and a few weeks of observation, I realised their drive was unpicking their progress. They were being really selective about what they focused on, and were picking projects based solely on what kind of visibility it would give them and how it would support the plan that we had created. This sometimes meant that they were steamrolling their peers to get their own way. They were also quite over the top in broadcasting their achievements and often overshadowed others in the team who had worked just as hard on the same project. They had also, unfortunately, adopted a bit of a superior manner when it came to interacting with their colleagues. They would give, at times, what seemed like quite condescending advice, unrequested, and in a way that sort of sounded like they were talking down to them. I also noted that they had applied for quite a number of more senior roles within the organisation without any success, which, to be fair, was slightly ahead of the plan that we had created, and probably more frequently than I would have advised if they had asked me. I had a meeting with them and talked through my observations and tried to bring them back to the plan that we had created and how to shift their focus from their individual success to the whole team. I reminded them that building relationships and contributing to the team was all part of helping support their leadership reputation and can only enhance their productivity as well as their reputation. I also advised them that you never really knew when you were going to be faced with somebody again and how they could be showing up in their future. Who knew what their peers could be doing in 5 years' time, and what are the chances that they're on the other side of the interview table and potentially standing between them and a future opportunity. I asked how they thought that their peers would reflect on their interactions with them and what impact this could have on their own reputation. I also talked to them about their job application process and asked them about the roles that they've been applying for. They were obviously just desperate for the next step. Unfortunately, they were also getting some reasonably harsh feedback on their genuine desire for the roles that they were applying for, which is a bit of a red flag that their desperation was potentially showing through to the interview panels too. It was a difficult conversation and a hard lesson for them when I highlighted to them that they were single-handedly unpicking all of the great progress that they have been making on their leadership career plan, particularly as the applications that they have been flooding the organisation with would be noticed, and what was the reputation that they were leaving behind given their actions and the impact it was having on the team. They were not very happy, and I suspect it hit particularly hard as all went quiet for quite a few months. They just did their role and tried to fit in with the team. However, some of that damage was going to take time to repair, and they were going to have to consistently show up in a way that recognised that they had changed, and they came to me with the realisation that for them this was all just a big distraction from their solo career goals, and they had decided to apply for a different role doing something completely different and hoped that they could still circle back to their overall goal. I had reservations about this and let them know that I thought that it could be quite hard for them to circle back, particularly if they still really wanted to get that dream role. But they really didn't want to wait, and they didn't want to work through the hard stuff that it would have required, which wasn't really a great sign of leadership potential for me. And I expressed to them that it was potentially the same timeline, but they would be trying to circle back and then repeat it again. Whereas if they just stayed and did the hard yards now, they could potentially be moving into a different role rather than trying to wind back again to the same kind of role in a year's time. However, after expressing my opinion, which they could obviously take or leave, I wished them well. Over a year later, they came back to me to ask how they could get their career back on track, which I was happy to give them and help support them. And while the gap might have set them back, it was actually their own actions and that single-minded focus on their individual success above everyone else that really impacted them. So don't make the same mistake. And thanks very much for watching.